Judge Jan Vislowski here doing the oath for each individual.
Right hand. And repeat after me. I, John Riva,
I, John Reba,
being duly elected
as a false township auditor,
do hereby solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
the laws of the County of Bucks,
the laws of the County of Bucks,
and the laws of the Township of Falls.
and the laws of the Township of Falls.
I further promise
I further promise
to perform the duties
to perform the duties
of my office
to
the best of my ability
the best of my ability
for the good of the people
for the good of the people
of Falls Township.
of Falls Township.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Next, I'd like to ask Kim Scarpiel to come up and be sworn in as tax collector.
I, Kimberly Scarpiello,
Being duly elected
being duly elected
as Falls Township Tax Collector,
as Falls Township Tax Collector,
do hereby solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
the laws of the County of Bucks,
the laws of the County of Bucks,
and the laws of the Township of Falls.
and the laws of the Township of Falls.
I further promise
I further promise
to perform the duties
to perform the duties
of my office
of my office
to the best of my ability
to the best of my ability
for the good of the people
for the good of the people
of Falls Township.
of Falls Township.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Next, I'd like to ask Jeff Dents to come up to be sworn in as supervisor of Falls Township.
You have a Bible holder?
Yeah, my mother.
Okay, raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Jeff Dents,
I, Jeff Dents,
do hereby solemnly swear
do hereby solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United
the
States,
Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
the laws of the County of Bucks,
the laws of the County of Bucks,
and the laws of the Township of Falls.
and the laws of the Township of Falls.
I further promise
I further promise
to faithfully and impartially
perform the
perform
duties
the office of Township Supervisor
of the office of Township Supervisor
to the best of my ability
to the best of my ability
for the good of the people
for the good of the people
of Falls Township.
of Falls Township.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Finally, I'd like to ask Bob Harvey to come up and be sworn in also as a supervisor of Falls Township.
Please raise your right hand. I, Robert J. Harvey,
I, Robert J. Harvey, Jr.,
do hereby solemnly swear
do hereby solemnly swear
that I will support, obey, and defend
that I will support, obey, and defend
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
the laws of the County of Bucks,
the laws of the County of Bucks,
and the laws of the Township of Falls.
and the laws of the Township of Falls.
I further promise
I further promise
to faithfully
to faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
perform the duties
perform the duties
of the office of Township Supervisor
of the office of Township Supervisor
to the best of my ability
to the best of my ability
for the good of the people
for the good of the people
of Falls Township.
of Falls Township. So help me God.
His wife and kids, I never got to see that.
I'd like to thank Judge Vislowski for coming and serving the oath to all the officials.
Okay, good evening. I'd like to also echo Mr. Gray's comments, thanking Justice Vislowski for her role in the swearing in of the elected officials this evening. We'll begin tonight's reorganization meeting, January 4th, 2010, of the Falls Township Board of Supervisors with a, oh, okay, we'll do a picture first. Well, we'll begin with a picture first, then we'll do the salute to the flag, I guess. Sorry.
Picture.
I've been invited to get a picture.
Yeah, it's a whole board.
No, that's not, that's not our official picture, is it?
Yeah.
Huh. Is that our official picture?
Yes.
Someone should have told me.
This is the Falls Township Board of Supervisor meeting for January 4th, 2010. You're about to view the Falls Township Board of Supervisors meeting on cable channel, Comcast cable channel 22 and Verizon channel 40. This program was pre-recorded earlier for playback at this time.
I forgot to look and see who sent these.
Okay, thank you. We have our Township Secretary, Mrs. Poland, is perfect timing. Okay, we just finished with the swearing-in ceremony. So we'll let her get situated here. I want to thank everybody for coming out this evening. Those of you here to see the swearing-in process. Tonight's meeting is not a normal business meeting per se. It's a reorganization meeting. So a lot of the things are hopefully move pretty quickly through the process. Okay. We'll begin this evening's meeting with a salute to the flag, please. Okay, thank you. Mrs. Poland, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Zupka?
Here.
Mrs. Vislowski? Here. Mr. Harvey?
Here.
Mr. Dents? Here. Mr. Smith?
Here.
Okay, the first order of business is to name a temporary chairman to preside until a chairman is appointed. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to, can we appoint you as temporary chairman?
Certainly.
I'd like to appoint Bob Harvey as temporary chairman.
Second the motion?
Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay. Ayes have it. All right. Item number 1 is the appointment of a chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a nomination, appointment of Bob Harvey as chair of the Falls Township Board of Supervisors.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we appoint Jeffrey Dents as chairman of the Falls Township Board of Supervisors.
I'll second the motion on Jeffrey Dents.
Okay.
As flattered as I am, Mrs. Vislowski, I've been on this board for 10 minutes now. I think I'd like to give it some time before I take the seat of chairman.
Okay.
Thank you, though.
The
I'll second the motion for Mr. Harvey, though.
Okay, motion made and seconded for Mr. Dents. Mr. Dents declining the nomination. Is there still a vote necessary? Mr. Rudolph?
Yes, sir.
All right, vote is still necessary for Mr. Dents, keeping in mind Mr. Dents has voiced his opinion not to be chairman. But all in favor of Mr. Dents as chairman, aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? No.
No.
Okay, all right, the noes have it. Motion made and seconded for Bob Harvey to be the chairman of the Falls Township Board of Supervisors. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
Okay, ayes have it. All right. Okay, and I thank the vote of confidence from my two friends to the left here. Vice chairman appointment. Is there a motion to appoint a vice chairman for the Falls Township Board of Supervisors?
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to appoint Mr. Snipes as vice chairman.
Okay, I'll second. Motion made and seconded for Mr. Snipes to be vice chairman of the Falls Township Board of Supervisors. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
No.
Okay, ayes have it. All right, item 3 is the appointment of a secretary-treasurer to the Falls Township Board of Supervisors. Is there a motion?
Yes, I'd like to appoint, to nominate Jeff Dents as Secretary-Treasurer for the Falls Township Board of Supervisors.
Okay, and I'll second the motion. Motion made and seconded to appoint Jeff Dents, Secretary-Treasurer of the Falls Township Board of Supervisors. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Noes? Ayes have it. The Assistant Secretary-Treasurer appointment, typically for as long as I've been on the board, has been the manager, has acted as the temporary or Assistant Secretary-Treasurer. Is there a motion at this time to name an Assistant Secretary-Treasurer?
So moved to nominate Mr. Peter Gray as Assistant Secretary-Treasurer.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. All right. Item 5, establishing meeting dates and times for regular meetings of the Falls Township Board of Supervisors. Tuesdays, the first and third Tuesdays of the month have been the meeting dates for a long time. The time has fluctuated, the starting time has fluctuated between 7 and 7:30. So is there a motion at this time on naming a time and dates, or days of the week rather, for meetings for the Falls Township Board of Supervisors?
I move that we meet on the first and third Tuesdays at 7:30 p.m.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made and seconded for 7:30 Tuesdays.
Could I ask one question?
Sure.
There'd been some interest in moving the meetings to 7, just so we could kind of move through the business quicker. Is that a hardship on anyone to meet at 7?
It's not for myself, no.
It would be for me. I have expressed my desire to have it later because I do cooking for senior citizens and it's difficult for me to get here. However, if you'll tolerate my being 15 minutes to a half hour late, you'll do what you're going to do anyhow.
Okay. Motion is made for first and third Tuesdays at 7:30 and seconded also.
Doesn't matter to me.
Okay. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Okay, opposed? All right, 7:30, first and third Tuesdays. Okay, appointment of township solicitors, special counsel, and setting compensation fees. There are a number of attorneys who work for the township, general representation, as well as labor attorneys and land development attorneys who handle just land development issues. We have a couple of memos, one dated, the one memo dated December 30th, 2009, which has the information from some of our solicitors. Is there a motion at this time?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to appoint the firm of Flagger and Yaki as zoning and land development counsel
And the amounts too.
at the amount of $160 an hour and $315 an hour for developers.
Okay, Flagler and Yaki's been the land development attorneys for a few years now. Is there a motion, or is there a second to the motion?
Yes, I'll second it.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen, can you poll the board, please?
Mr. Zafka?
No.
Mrs. Wisłowski?
No.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Okay. Other motions for solicitors?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Jordan Yeager as a labor solicitor at the rate of $140 an hour for general representation and $170 an hour for arbitration and litigation.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made and seconded for Mr. Yeager, who has been our labor counsel for 2 years now?
Well, one thing, are we appointing the firm or just Jordan Yeager?
Well, Mr. Yeager would be the
Just Jordan
designated
Yeager, right?
attorney, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, he's from the firm of Curtin and Hefner.
Mr. Dents, it's inappropriate for me to state the reasons why I find Mr. Yeager unacceptable. I'm wondering if you would consider allowing us to table this so that I can tell you what my reasons are in executive session. We ought not to discuss such things out here in a public forum. I'm going to move to table for that reason. There's no urgency in filling all of these appointments tonight, and I happen to be very familiar with Mr. Yeager's work, and I can show you a document that has made me make up my mind that he's unacceptable.
I spoke to Flagler and Yaki. I've known Randy for a while, but I spoke to them prior to tonight's meeting. I spoke to Jordan Yeager several times prior to tonight's meeting, and that's the reason that I was going with Jordan Yeager.
Well,
I mean,
I will
Okay, we
I will
have-
still make the motion to table. We'll see whether or not you wish to acquiesce. My motion is to table this appointment.
I'll second the motion.
Motion to table takes precedence over any other motion. All right, motion to table takes precedence over any other motion. It is seconded. It is not open for debate. The motion is to table the hiring of Jordan Yeager as labor counsel. Mrs. Pullen, poll the board, please.
Mr. Zafka?
Yes, the table.
Mrs. Wislowski?
Yes to table.
Mr. Harvey?
No.
Mr. Dents?
no.
Mr. Snipes?
No.
Okay, Mr. Dents had a motion for Mr. Yeager at the rates indicated on December 30th memo. Is there a second to his motion?
Yes, I thought I had seconded it already.
I apologize. Okay. Motion made and seconded for Mr. Yeager as labor counsel, continuing in that position. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Zafka?
No.
Mrs. Wislowski?
No.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Okay. Any other motions at this time, or?
Yes, as for Rudolph, Pizzo, and Clark, as I said, I spoke to the other two. I was supposed to meet with Mr. Clark this week, but was unable to. So I would like to move to table appointing a solicitor for the township at this time.
I will second that motion.
Okay. Motion made to table the hiring of a general counsel at this time. Just for, I guess, the record, the current counsel would continue in the role as counsel until someone new is appointed. Is that correct, Mr. Ruff?
correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, so motion made to table and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Discussion before the
No
vote.
discussion on tabling, madam. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Zafka?
Yes, the table.
Mrs. Wislowski?
Yes to table.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes, although I have total faith in Rudolph Pizzo and Clark.
Yeah,
but
I would like
we
to
can wait.
now address the situation, Mr. Harvey. I want the people to know that the professionals serve at will. We saw that unfold when the prior board majority got rid of Wayne Bergman. And we had the solicitor's opinion, Mr. Clark's opinion, that they served at will and they could be dismissed by 3 votes of this board at any time. And we questioned how much that might cost. And Mr. Clark stated emphatically that there was not 1 dime due to Mr. Bergman. When he left, he would have to leave just and be paid up to the day he worked last. And then about a month or 2 later, he flip-flopped. And he made a completely different ruling. And Mr. Bergman left here with a whole satchel full of money because they bought him out. Now, the same thing was tried with Neil Harkins. Neil didn't have tenure, but he was our chief of police because he was the director of public safety. He also was an at-will employee. and at-will employees leave without any compensation. They're paid up to the last day they work. And Neil Harkins told Mr. Zupka and I, when we went up to Mannheim to visit him at his new job, that he was asked to say he was leaving Falls Township because of Dorothy Vislowski. And he said, "You will never get me to tell that lie."
Okay. I'm not
And
going to,
I-
no, I'm
I
sorry. We're
want-
going to continue because Mr.
You will not interrupt
Yes,
me. I have
Miss-
equal time
Mr.
on this
Harkins-
board,
Mr.
Mr.
Harkins was
Mr.
never
Dance,
asked
I
to
hope you
leave,
pay
quite
attention
frankly.
because I'm hoping for
We're
some
trying to,
stability on
we're
the
trying to move
board.
on with the agenda,
Don't
please.
talk over me, sir. Now,
right, we've
I
dealt with
I
item
do
number
not.
6.
You see, each time that I try
We're
to
going to
explain
move
something
on
to the
with
public
item
that
7.
happened, we have this sort of an altercation,
Township
and then the
engineers?
meeting gets shut down. That's not right,
We
because
have,
I do represent.
a general engineer, okay, and we also have a traffic engineer. We have information here from both of them. Just looking at the memo from December 30th, traffic planning and design, which is the traffic engineer for Falls Township, the rate they have stated here is $100 an hour for their principals. Other employees are paid less than that. In talking with Mr. Chad Dixon, who's one of the business managers for one of the principals for traffic planning and design earlier this evening, he agreed to lower his rate to $95 an hour, which would keep them in line with CMX, which is our general engineer. So just wanted to let members of the board know that before they acted this evening, that both the general engineer and traffic engineer have agreed to a rate of $95 an hour. Okay. Is there a motion at this point for either or both of the engineers? We'll have to do them separately, either of the engineers.
You have them, let's see. Yes, a motion to appoint traffic planning and design at the rate of $95 an hour.
Okay.
Second that motion.
Motion made and seconded for traffic planning and design. Anthony Doherty as the traffic engineer for Falls Township at the rate of $95 an hour. He'll continue in that position if approved. Mrs. Pullen?
Discussion on the motion, please.
Very
We're
well.
going by Robert's Rules of Order, I'm assuming.
Have discussion?
All right. Traffic planning and design is the name in play and the only name in play. And these professionals that are being considered by Mr. Harvey and Mr. Snipes are the individuals who make major contributions to the political campaigns. And I would like to advise Mr. Dents, our new member, that there's no urgency to pick a successor there. I certainly haven't even looked for anyone because I thought that would just be a futile effort on my part. However, I would like to make a motion to table and give us another month to search and see if we have the best candidate at the best price. And so I move to table.
I'll second that motion.
All right. Motion to table the hiring of traffic planning and design as the traffic engineer. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Zupka?
Yes.
Mrs. Vislowski?
Yes to table.
Mr. Harvey?
No.
Mr. Dents?
No.
Mr. Snipes?
No.
And quite frankly, Mrs. Vislowski, you've had 4 years to find another engineer, and you haven't done that yet, so another month isn't going to help.
I'd like to
Mr.
add
Harvey,
also,
that's quite unfair.
Mr. Dents is speaking.
also, just like you said, they're at-will employees, so if we find someone else, we can always
Yeah.
dismiss them.
But there was no hope for the last 4 years for me to even propose any other name. That's why I didn't spend my time and effort to do that.
Okay. All right, so the motion is made for traffic planning and design, $95 an hour. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Zupka?
No.
Mrs. Vislowski?
Absolutely no.
Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we appoint CMX as our general engineer at the fee of $95 an hour for principals.
Okay, motion made. CMX has operated as the general engineer now for, well, since 2004, roughly April, I think, 2004. So, motion made. I'll second for CMX. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Zupka?
Yes.
Mrs. Vislowski?
No.
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay, item number 8 is appointment of a vacancy board chairman. Past few years, Arlene Goulding has acted in this role. The vacancy board essentially meets if there is a vacancy on this board for whatever reason and a new board member has to be appointed. The responsibility first falls to the members of the board here. If they cannot reach a majority decision, if the 3 members cannot agree on one replacement, then a vacancy board is convened. The vacancy board chairman would then come on to the board with the sole purpose of giving a tie-breaking vote in the hopes of appointing someone to fill a vacant seat on this board. There hasn't been that situation since 2000, maybe? So 10 years roughly. And so the position is largely ceremonial. We do have, like I said, a letter of interest from Mrs. Goulding, who has served in this capacity for several years now. It is not a paid position at all. It's a voluntary position. And essentially, the only responsibility is if someone leaves the board. So
I'd like to be heard on this,
certainly.
Mr. Harvey. There is no vacancy board. So we'll correct that misrepresentation right away. There's only one individual who breaks the tie if, obviously, this board goes 2-2. If I should happen to leave the board, there's no problem because it would go 3-1 for the vacancy appointment to fill my position. But it's the most powerful position, I think, in Falls Township. There's one individual who breaks the tie. And if that still cannot be done, if there are 2 or 3 names in play, then the Court of Common Pleas has the responsibility to pick the successor to the vacant chair. And I wanted the public to understand how that works. In my opinion, after watching government for 45 years, I have considered that that is absolutely the most powerful position on this entire board, and it's only one individual.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Mrs. Goulding, I believe, is here this evening. We have a letter from her, so I assume that she's interested in serving again. I don't believe she's ever been called to have to fulfill this duty, so it's not a very taxing position so far. I see her there, she's waving. So I'm sure by her letter, she indicates she's interested in doing it again. I'm sure if she was called on, she'd do an excellent job. So I'm happy to nominate Mrs. Arlene Goulding as vacancy board chairman.
And this is the only letter we've received, right?
Correct. Yeah, I'll second Mrs. Goulding's letter of interest.
I would like to nominate Jack Dethorne as vacancy chairperson.
Well, we have a motion and a second as of now, so we'll call the vote on that motion.
Well, I wanted to make sure that there is another name in play because I'm accused of not having any ideas. I've got plenty of wonderful ideas about how to move this township forward. Unfortunately, I don't have the cooperation.
Well, Mr. Kozlowski, I'd be happy to listen to any of those ideas. You've voiced none of them to me personally over the past 4 years.
I don't talk to you personally because of your ruthless attitude.
Well, it's a little difficult. It's a little difficult to give you
Try sitting here and you won't find it so
a little difficult to have
humorous.
cooperation then. Okay. So we have a motion and a second from Mrs. Goulding. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, ayes have it.
I am voting no. Absolutely no. And
Okay.
if I should leave the board, I'm sure that you will find someone like Debbie de Blasio in this chair. Lots of luck.
All right. Okay. Appointments to various boards, councils, and commissions. We have quite a few boards here in the township that do a lot of important work for us. There are some of these boards. We have letters of interest in quite a few of them. Some of them I feel are a little bit more necessary, and some of them are a little bit easier to appoint now. I don't think we have to fill all these vacancies this evening. That's not a requirement of ours, although with a couple of these boards, I think we do have to act this evening. I think, for example, the Board of Appeals is a 3-member board. Mr. Hedden, Robert Hedden, who was put on this board earlier in the year, expressed an interest to be reappointed. I think all of us agree Mr. Hedden's extremely qualified. This is also a board that very rarely meets. It's if someone appeals a zoning or a code enforcement issue, this Board of Appeals is made up of 3 members that would hear that appeal. It's only happened once, I believe, since I've been on this board. So, but I know Mr. Hedden personally, and I think all of us have a lot of respect for him. And so I'll ask if there's a motion for Board of Appeals at this point.
So moved.
Okay.
Second it.
All right, motion made for Mr. Hedden to be reappointed Board of Appeals. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Parks and Recreation is a seven-member board. At the moment, there are 4 vacancies, and this board is scheduled to meet next week. Obviously, if there are 4 vacancies, they can't conduct business if there are only 3 members, and so we would have to appoint members this evening. We have 2 term expirations and 2 vacancies. Mr. Ralph Asplund, who's been serving as the chair of that commission, has expressed interest in being reappointed. Mrs. Debbie Martier, who's also been on the board for a few years and is a very active volunteer in the township, is also asked to be reappointed. We also have 2 letters of interest for the 2 vacancies. Quinn Kelly and Lindsay Martier Kelly, both very active volunteers who have been involved in the township, are interested in being appointed to those positions. I'm assuming I'll ask the solicitor, but I'm assuming we have to make these appointments. Well, yeah, we have to make them individually, obviously, because the terms of office would be different. Okay.
I'll move
Correct.
to.
Okay. Go ahead.
May I? I'll move to appoint Quinn Kelly. I spoke with her this evening, and she's acceptable as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
She has a history of volunteerism.
All right. Ms. Vislowski, I'll just ask you to specify there are 2 terms. One expires at the end of this year, one at the end of next year. Which of those 2 would you prefer?
I move that she receive the longest term.
Okay, so 2011 it would expire. Okay, motion made for Ms. Quinn Kelly. Mrs. Quinn Kelly,
I'll second it.
for 2011. Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Very well. Okay. Any other motions for Park and Recreation Board?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to appoint Ralph Asplund again to the Park and Recreation Board. And what would be the length
Will
of
be
his
a
term?
full 5-year term.
For a full 5-year term.
Okay. Motion made and seconded for Mr. Asplund. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Is Mr. Asplund here?
I do not believe so. I didn't see him. No. But he has been on the board for several years, and he's been, as I said, been chair for
I
a few years.
recognize the name. I just have never seen him.
Okay. All in favor? Sorry. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Okay.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, also I'd like to make a motion to appoint Lindsay Martier Kelly to the Park and Rec Board. Again, I'm sorry, I don't have the length of the term.
To 2010.
Until 2010.
Okay.
Second that motion.
Motion made and seconded for Mrs. Lindsay Martier Kelly for the vacancy that would expire at the end of 2010. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I would like to say that Quinn Kelly filled me in on this candidate, too, and I certainly support her. She's been a volunteer.
Okay, and I do see her in the back of the room as well. So thank you for coming here, and congratulations. Is there a motion for Mrs. Martier to be reappointed for a full 5-year term?
Yes, so moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All right, motion made and seconded for Mrs. Martier to be reappointed to her full 5-year term. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, all right. The Police Pension Committee is an annual appointment. There are 5 members on the committee. The township manager serves in one of those positions. There is one board representative who has for several years now been Mr. Zipka. There are also 2 at-large members. And 1 representative from the police department. Obviously, we don't appoint the representative from the police department. For the past few years, that has been Detective Max McClintock. They'll fill that role. I don't know, have they already? Do you know, Mr. Gray? Have they?
I don't believe they have, but I'm sure they will.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I would like to be reappointed and stay with it, as I have over the years.
Yeah, that's fine, Mr. Zupka. I had every intention of seeing you reappointed. Is there a motion for Mr. Zupka to be the board representative?
So moved.
So moved and seconded?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Abstaining.
Mr. Gray, are you on the board automatically, or do you need to be appointed to the board?
I believe I'm on automatically.
Okay, I thought so too. The one letter we have, letter of interest, there, I said 2 at-large members. One gentleman, Mr. Henry Conroy, does wish to be reappointed. I did speak with him. He's been on the board for quite a few years now. Mr. Thomas Roach has been on the board as well for a few years, but we don't have a letter from him expressing interest. So perhaps we only want to do Mr. Conroy until we find out if Mr. Roach is still interested. Is that the will of the board?
When do they meet?
Mr. Gray?
Periodically, we meet to discuss the pension statements that come from the investment company or any other police matters that are necessary.
It's usually about every quarter.
We haven't met in a while, but,
Well,
There's no urgency.
We didn't have the
at this
last
time.
quarter.
right. I'm sorry?
No urgency at this time.
We probably won't have a meeting for a few weeks at the earliest.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion then for, or interest in appointing Mr. Conroy, since he has expressed an interest to be reappointed?
Yes,
Make a
Mr.
motion to
Chairman.
appoint Henry Conroy.
I'll
All right.
second.
Mr. Zupka made a motion, Mrs. Vislowski seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right. The Water and Sewer Authority Board, obviously one of the boards that needs to have a reappointment, term expiration. That we do have a letter of interest from Mr. James Goodwin. We also have a letter of interest from Mr. Anthony Rosso, who is currently has been on the board for a few years now. Is there a motion at this time?
I thought Mr. Goodwin was on another one of our boards. Am I mistaken with materials I read?
He's not on. I don't think he's on any board.
No.
No, he is not.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Mr. Goodwin to the Water and Sewer Authority
That'll be for a full 5-year
for a
term.
5-year term.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made and seconded for Mr. Goodwin to be on the Water and Sewer Authority Board. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
I abstain.
All right, abstain. All right, let's thank Mr. Rosso for his service. He's served on the board for a few years now, helped him get off the ground, so I appreciate his time, but we have some other people who would express some interest. We'd like to sort of get them involved as well.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a quick comment?
Sure.
For those people that either don't wish to be appointed or in whose position we've appointed someone else who have served, I hope we'll send a letter thanking them for their service and just to expressing the appreciation of Board of Supervisors.
Certainly.
For their work.
I think it's an excellent idea. Okay, Zoning Hearing Board. The expiration, the vacancy on the board was made when Mr. Dents got elected, and so we're filling his seat. We do have a letter of interest from Mr. Scott Milliken, who has been the alternate for a few years now. A few years now. He's interested in taking on a full seat, not the alternate. And we also have two letters to fill the alternate position. This would have to be done by resolution, just by law. So, if
What's
there's
the resolution number?
the 1001, correct, Mr. Gray?
Yes, that's correct, yes.
All right, on Resolution 1001.
1001.
I move that we appoint Scott Milliken, who has the most impressive resume I have ever read for that position.
I agree. Mr. Milliken I've worked with for several years, and he's more than qualified. And I'll second the motion.
Okay. And I also have talked to Mr. Milliken a few times and I'm very impressed by his resume. So we have motion made and seconded, Resolution 1001, making Scott Milliken a full member of the Zoning Hearing Board. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Is Mr. Milliken here tonight?
I don't believe so, no. Okay.
Someone waved. You're too young to be Mr. Milliken.
All right, Resolution 1002 would be to appoint an alternate to the Zoning Hearing Board. Is there a motion at this time?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, we have a letter here from Mr. Bill Kiernan. He's been serving on the Falls Township Community Economic Development Commission, and I think he's done a good job there, and I would like to make a motion to have him appointed as the alternate to the Zoning Hearing Board.
Okay. Motion made for Mr. Kiernan as an alternate.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
I want to
Opposed?
discuss the motion.
I heard one no.
I would like to discuss the motion. Putting Mr. Kiernan on the Zoning Hearing Board would be the same as ordering gloves for Venus de Milo. He has no knowledge of zoning, and I have a great deal of knowledge about him. Mr. Kiernan has absconded with the Republican Party's ballots and checks a few elections back.
Okay.
I don't want to see a
Well,
person
Mrs.
of that.
Wisłowski, I'm not-
But don't interrupt me.
Well, I'm going to have to
I
because
have
you're
been
accusing the gentleman,
recognized.
you're accusing him of theft. I'm not going to allow that to happen here.
It's a proven fact.
Well,
Harry
then-
Fox,
well,
the
then-
county chairman, made it very
Well,
clear
then bring
and
that if-
kicked him off the executive
Well, then
committee.
he should have called the
And I
police,
don't want
quite
a
frankly.
person of that
So-
caliber serving on our zoning hearing board.
Right.
It's a paid position, and there's too much opportunity to do the wrong thing. We voted at the last meeting to take an appeal from a decision of the zoning hearing board already. And I want to go on record, and I am requesting that the secretary state my reasons.
Okay, all right. Okay, we're moving on to item number 10, which is public comment. Lisa, did you record a vote on Mr. Kiernan? Yeah, 3-2, right? Yeah, she got it. Okay, public comment. We ask people to limit themselves 5-minute maximum. And we try and look at a 45-minute maximum for the entire agenda. There's only one name I have on the list. Ms. Wisłowski, I'm assuming you, okay, because you signed on the non-resident sign-in sheet, I'm assuming that was a mistake, right?
Say that again?
I said you signed on the non-resident sign-in sheet, I'm assuming that was a mistake?
That certainly was. I'm not a non-resident.
Okay, you wish to speak then?
I'm living in a very cold building. There are a lot of things that I wish to talk about. One of the most important ones is for me to discuss the personal attacks that occur here, in spite of the fact that we hypocritically claim that we are going to implement the public comment policy. And the tape that's playing, even as we speak, is very proof positive. Mr. Harvey made the announcement at the last meeting that we were going to adhere to the public comment policy, which meant no personal attacks. And then Mr. Mariani and Mr. Kenny both approached the microphone. Mr. Kenny screamed at me and yelled to shut up. I've never heard a voice that loud in this room before. And Mr. Mariani was agreeing with Mr. Harvey. Now, I made up my mind that I don't have to answer anything, and I don't intend to. Wisłowski.com is my website, and I'm going to get new software, and I shall answer the lies and the things that happen at these meetings on the website. I don't intend to lower myself to get involved. But I was told by Mr. Mariani that I have absolutely no friends. Everything that I said was the truth, but everything that was said about me was not true, and Mr. Harvey shut down the meeting. I wasn't allowed to answer the attacks. Well, these flowers, I just opened the card tonight. These came from the Democratic county chairman. Now, I think it's interesting since I wiped out the Democrats with this last newsletter. So these came from the Democratic county chairman. I am a registered Democrat, but I call myself a Republican because I represent all of the people. And as for my not having any friends, the cards and letters started coming. There are more than 300 here from people who watch the meetings. And they wrote personal letters of support and very interesting and printable criticisms of the board majority and the way they run this township. And I thought, well, these all came from non-friends, people who said, I gave up writing Christmas cards 20 years ago, but I want to write to make sure you understand that I am your friend and I support you. And the point I'm going to make here tonight is that the silent majority doesn't come to these meetings. And they say to me, I don't know how you can tolerate all of the abuse. And the gist of it is, I've never seen you throw the first rock. It's always people that come out and they try to do everything to discourage you and to quit watching the board. Now, some of the people are so frightened of the vicious ones who attack me that they said, please, don't let my name be told. I don't think I could take the kind of abuse that you do. But I will thank the individuals publicly here tonight. I brought the proof. They're here. They're stacked tight. I quit counting because they were still coming today. Now they're birthday cards because my birthday's at the end of this week, I think. Yes. Happy birthday. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm real glad I was born because it gives me the opportunity to tell what goes on in my government. So I shall just stop by making that point. And I'm going to say that there isn't anything that's going to make me angry at any one of these meetings again, because all of these letters say, don't let them get to you. We see what's going on and we know who lies. And you're not the liar on that board, and you're not the liar in that room. So there were letters from St. Joseph's the Worker. There were letters from everywhere. And the public are so sweet, and I want to thank them. They've been so supportive. I also went to the Calvary Church on Sunday, right at the point of Falsington and Route 1, Business Route 1. And I never heard a more appropriate sermon in my life. And I want to thank Pastor Farina for that particular sermon. I think it was, or sermon, because it was inspired by God. He could not have said all of the things he did and hit the target so perfectly. He had no idea that I was coming. I want to thank him for being so gracious to a friend of mine who had come from way in northern New Jersey and had come for lunch with his wife. And I sent him over to meet Pastor Farina, and he loved that church, and I do too. They're such a wonderful group of people, and it was a privilege to be there. But heartfelt thanks to them for making me realize that I don't have to answer anything. At age 80, I don't have any political ambitions. I want my family to live in an honest community run by honest people. That always has been my objective.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Wisłowski, very much. And I will acknowledge one thing you did say. I do apologize for the comments that were made, really in both directions. Certainly the last meeting did get out of hand.
Mr. Harvey, you permitted it. What kind of a hypocrite are you that you just got done saying you would not allow any personal attacks, and you allowed two of the most vicious attacks that ever occurred that weren't true, and you shut down the meeting and wouldn't even let me set the record straight.
Well,
I do not think you're an appropriate chairman.
Okay.
I have stated that. Last year at this time, you promised that you would permit these two board members, duly elected. I got more votes than you ever got. And I'm not allowed to put an item on the agenda.
Actually, Ms.
And the
Wisłowski,
people that permit that are very, very foolish.
First off, it was 2 years ago you asked me that, not 1 year ago.
I've been asking that almost at every meeting. I got tired of asking.
And if you notice, Mrs. Wisłowski, we're moving these meetings to 7:30. We're having these meetings at 7:30 solely because of you.
You're not doing that favor for me, Mr. Harvey.
Mrs. Wisłowski, I'd like to have a meeting at 7.
I've lived with whatever you've done.
So
I've
doing it for
lived
you.
with whatever you've done. And are you meeting secretly with our solicitor every Tuesday in this building? Are you meeting with him, and are we paying him?
When you want to have a discussion about agenda items, you feel free to give me a call, and we can talk about the agenda items.
Mr. Harvey, I wouldn't call you. You're the biggest liar that ever sat on this board in the 45 years. Well, you're telling me to call you.
All right. Sit down.
The spoken word is written on the wind.
Calm down.
Go ahead. The people at home know the difference.
All right, Mrs. Wisłowski.
You shouldn't be here. You should be watching this meeting with your 8-year-old until midnight.
Talking about personal attacks, Mrs. Wisłowski. All right, that was the only name I have on the agenda, on the sign-in sheet. I don't know if there's anybody else who wishes to speak, resident or non-resident. I see no hands. We'll move on then.
Standard.
Okay. Number 11, item 11, consider Township Manager's Agreement. The Township Manager's Agreement stipulates an increase in salary that kicks in every January. The agreement is the same that's been for the past, I guess, 3 years?
Yes.
Correct? And so we're just ratifying the increase.
I'd like to be heard on this issue.
Certainly.
It's an agenda item.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, we're premature. The township manager is one of the professionals that serves at will. That means his contract is not really meaningful at all. He lives or dies by the sword. 3 votes on this board. Now, I don't see any reason why this is an urgent item. And since our staff is so unhappy over their benefits, and we went through that, and I've talked with staff members, I think that we have a double standard here. And I think that this can be placed on the table and addressed at another time. Wayne Bergman was let go. He was an at-will employee. So was Neil Harkins. There were others who went under peculiar circumstances, and they'll be on my website. I'm not going to be silent about that anymore. I'm going to tell the backroom secrets.
Okay. Mr. Gray, for the record, with the implementation of increased fees for, or increased contributions by members of some of the workers here in the township, does that include yourself?
Yes.
Okay, and what, so the increase you have in your contract is?
4%.
4%? Okay, and you'll be paying?
2%.
2% of your gross salary
Yes.
into your own health care?
Yes.
Okay, which is probably more than certainly any other township employee is paying in terms of the amount of money. So there is no double standard in that regard. All right, so is there a motion to adopt the agreement for the, or ratify, I guess, the agreement for the township manager effective this evening?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second the motion.
All right, motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen, call the board, please.
Mr. Zupka?
Yes.
Mrs. Kozlowski?
No.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Okay. All right, item number 12 is appointment of depositories by resolution. By law, the township has to appoint certain depositories, certain banks where we can put our money. That prevents sort of money being put at just anywhere. And we have before us a list of 11, if my math is right, 11 banks and different organizations where some of the money of the township goes. This doesn't mean that all of our money is put in all of these banks. Some of this money, for example, is used for employee contributions to their 401ks. Some of it is used for the long-term savings account. Some of it is used for other investments, bonds and things, well, not bonds anymore, but the investments by the township. What this allows us to do is compare the rates that we get from these 11 banks. If any of them give us better rates, we move our money to them and we get better rates. But we can't do that if they're not on this list. And so that's what we're looking to do. This would be a resolution 2010-03, a resolution of the township designating certain banking institutions as township depositories for this year. Okay. Is there a motion from board members?
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to approve resolution number 2010-03.
Okay. Motion's made. Is there a second?
Yes, I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Item number 13, recommendation to the Board of Auditors to set the treasurer's bond at $2 million. Mr. Gray, do you want to explain this for us, please?
Sure. The board is asked to consider recommending this bond at $2 million. 3 bonds would be secured for the Secretary Treasurer, the Finance Director, and the Township Manager. The amount of $2 million is adequate to cover the amount that's usually shown on each bill list. Total cost of the 3 bonds is $8,757 and would be from the Fidelity and Deposit Company of Maryland. The cost of $8,757 has been consistent since 2007. At this time, the board is recommending to the Board of Auditors to set the treasurer's bond at $2 million.
Okay. All right, seems pretty straightforward. Is there a motion to make the recommendation to the Board of Auditors?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, a recommendation to the Board of make a motion to recommend to the Board of Auditors set the treasurer's bond at $2 million. Do we need to mention the name of the company or?
No, I don't
No,
believe
okay, at $2 million.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, item 14 is to nominate a delegate and an alternate to the State Association 88th Annual, Educational Conference and Trade Show. The Pennsylvania State Association of Township Supervisors is a state organization made up of elected officials, supervisors from townships like this one, that meet annually to discuss different issues that affect townships and how they deal with those issues. Could be anything from hiring practices to road maintenance to recreation or anything else. There is normally a delegate from the board who goes. In many cases, the alternate is the township manager. This is usually something we don't take up at this time. I know Mr. Dents has expressed a little bit of interest, but he wants to look a little bit more at his calendar, and so maybe we'll hold off on this. We don't need to take action on this evening. We can come back and take action another time.
Question.
Yes.
What is the position of any board member who wishes to go? How does this board react?
I don't think I understand.
Can any of the 5 board members go?
If they are designated as a delegate or alternate by the board, I imagine if you can go on your own, but
I have gone on my own.
The cost
I've
will
paid
be
my own way.
Right. The cost will be on you, but you won't be the official delegate or alternate delegate if you go by yourself.
Of course not.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
in the past, have found specific, we'll say seminars that they've had up there, and I found that I can go up that morning and sign up for those seminars, and I've done that almost every year,
Okay.
in the past. But myself for the 4 days is well, I won't say it's unattainable, but I just can't see everything they have going of spending the time. Although Mr. Dent, you might find a lot of it interesting and make contacts there. I've just done it on a sporadic basis daily.
Right. It is during the week. The conference runs from, I think, a Sunday to a Wednesday in April. It's not something I can attend because of that. I obviously can't take that sort of time for that in the past. I know Mr. Snipes, I think you've gone before. Mr. Kopiak went several times. And so something we'll take a look at.
I'd like to be heard on the subject.
Certainly.
I have driven up on my own. If I stayed overnight, I stayed with a friend. I have not submitted anything for reimbursement to this township, but I found that there's a lot of golfing that goes on. There isn't anything in the way of a report when the paid delegate comes back. I think that's not honest. I think that if you go up there to learn, then you should give a report to your constituents about why they got a quid pro quo for the money that they spent to send someone up to the Hershey Hotel or somewhere that's very expensive per night. It's not the Red Roof Inn. So, I do believe that constitutes honest government, and I don't think that we adhere to those standards, and that's one of the reasons I asked the question. Now, I shall go, and I don't want you all to think that you're the voice of the people. You're the voice of the political machine, mostly, and the voice of the people are out there, and they're the ones who voted on November 3rd, and they wiped out your club.
Okay. All right. We'll come back to item 14, another agenda item, or another meeting, rather. Item 15 is the minutes for December 15th, 2009. Are there any comments or questions or corrections regarding the minutes?
Yes.
I have no comments.
I don't see anything that says you closed down the meeting and the attack on me by the 2 Avonroe people. And I would have liked to have seen accurate minutes that told what really went on. Public doesn't know that their meetings are edited. What they're permitted to watch, even at home, is stolen from them.
Actually, Ms.
Because you don't learn what goes on from these minutes. I seldom vote to approve them because they are not accurate.
Actually, Mr. Kozlowski, on page 5 at the top, it says there was a break, right after Mr. Mariani's comment, it says there was a break in the meeting at 9:54.
A break. That's what you should have said. The screaming meanies were out there, and Mr. Harvey blamed Mrs. Kozlowski instead and wouldn't let her answer, and he shut down the meeting. And Mr. Dent, you won't think it's real funny if they start treating you that way.
Actually, Mrs. Kozlowski,
I guarantee
at the
you.
bottom of page 5,
You'll be a victim too.
it mentions that you had a public comment at the bottom of page 5, so you did have a chance to respond.
No, I was responding to the outrageous thing that happened, and that's what most of these letters in this box talk about.
Okay. All right.
The public, when I tell them, I called some of the more colorful ones, and they were angry when I told them what really went on.
Okay. Mr. Zupka, any comments, questions, suggestions?
None.
No? Mr. Dents? Oh, Mr. Dents wasn't here, so you can't vote. Sorry about that. I forgot about that. Mr. Snipes?
No comments.
No, I don't have any either. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the minutes December 15th, 2009?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve the minutes as presented for December 15, 2009.
Okay, I'll second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Please record my vote as absolutely not.
Okay. Ayes have it.
She writes what you tell her.
Okay. All right. Executive session, we don't have any executive session items. Do you have any manager comment, Mr. Gray?
We should have an executive session. There are some items that belong in executive session, and I would like to have one scheduled for the next meeting so that we can discuss the more sensitive things that go on behind the scenes.
Would you want to meet at 7? Well, I guess, assuming you don't want to meet at 7 o'clock, so it would be
No,
the
I don't
later
want to
one.
meet at 7
Okay.
o'clock. 7:30 has always been the standard time.
Well, the meeting,
until you changed
executive
it.
session would be at 7, and then we would start the meeting at 7:30. But we'll do the executive session at the next meeting for your concerns. Okay, so board comment. All right. Mr. Zupka?
Thank you. I'd like to personally welcome Mr. Dents. We have a little bit of a change here, and hopefully, Mr. Dents, you'll stick to, I'll say, what I've seen so far. You're going and meeting people and speaking to them to get your own ideas of what people stand for, and the people you're putting on boards, commissions, and committees. That's, to me, has shown tonight, and I believe in doing that. You'll also be taking your time and looking at some of the projects around the township, and with your background, being able to form your own opinion. But time will tell. I'm hoping for the best, and some more balance on the board, and I look forward to a good year for everyone in the township. The residents, friends. Hopefully, it'll be a good 2010. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mrs. Kozlowski?
Yes, Mr. Dents, I too welcome you to the board. You have a lot to learn.
Thank you.
And you've left the gate running. I hope you don't trip and fall, because you do have very much to learn. And it's obvious that there's been some lobbying with you, and I don't even resent that, because you have to make judgment calls. The way I view it, there was no way to go but up. And you didn't have any idea that I endorsed you, did you?
Nope.
We had never spoken a word to each other, but I still believe that any change on this board would have been an improvement. So I welcome you with all my heart, and I have all the patience in the world.
Okay, Mr. Dents?
I just want to thank the people of Falls Township that elected me to this position, and I look forward to serving them the next 6 years. That's all I have tonight.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Snipes?
I also want to, excuse me, welcome Jeff. I hope I know we'll have a good time working together. I'm looking forward to it. And I think the board has a lot of opportunity as we start off 2010 with our economy improving slightly, with Falls Township in excellent financial situation, even despite the economy. I think we're in a good position to carry forward some of the projects we've started and to maybe look at some of the new things we need to in terms of business development and services to the residents of Falls Township. So I'm hoping the board will work cooperatively, and I'm looking forward to 2010. It has to be better than 2009, I think, for a lot of us. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, I want to also thank the people who came out this evening, and also, again, our thanks to Justice Kozlowski for her taking time out of her schedule to come out on a cold night and swear in the 4 elected officials, Mr. Reba, auditor, Mrs. Scarpiello, as tax collector, Mr. Denson, myself. Obviously got to know Mr. Dents very well over the past year or so, and was happy to run with him, and know he'll do a good job. He has the right interests in mind as he sits up here. So I welcome him on the board. Just a couple things just to touch on. We had our holiday house decorating contest again this December. I'm not sure how many houses were nominated, but the 5 winners, and we'll give them something in our second meeting in January in a couple weeks. Not sure if their lights are still up. Maybe you get a chance to drive by and see if they're still up. But 438 Lakeside Drive, 9 Franklin Street in Fallsington, 35 Yardley Avenue in Fallsington, 213 Austin Drive in Frails Hills, and 210 Austin Drive in Frails Hills. So congratulations to them. We try to sort of give some recognition to those people that make the holiday season a little brighter, that go all out to make the neighborhood, kind of a showplace, and it certainly brings a smile to a lot of faces, and we think it's good to recognize them, to thank them for making this a great community. And with that, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The chairman has adjourned this meeting of the Falls Township Board of Supervisors for January 4th, 2010. This program is recorded in full for playback at this time. This is the Falls Township Governmental Access Channel 22 on Comcast Cable and Channel 40 on Verizon.